My wife and daughter ran off with a guy. They met at the mechanics. My wife Tina and daughter Lily left me for some guy they met at the mechanic shop on September 7th, 2022. We had been married for 5 years and had a 4-year-old together. Tina also had 2 other kids from a previous marriage who were pre-teens. About 2 months ago, we went to the mechanic shop to get her car serviced, and she kept chatting up and eyeing the mechanic. I ended up talking to him too because I was wearing a Raiders jersey, and he said he was a big fan of the Raiders. I work 10-hour days, which she absolutely hates, but she is a stay-at-home wife. I pay all the bills, so I have to be away. Tina was seeing this mechanic, Joe. Every day I was at work, behind my back. 3 weeks ago, I came home to a text from her saying she was gone, in love with Joe, and believed he was her soulmate. I did some digging and found out Joe has no place to stay, so they've been living in the car I pay for in different parks. The sad part is she left our 4-year-old behind and took the other 2 kids, who aren't mine. She has blocked me on everything. Family members have sent me posts of her saying how happy she is now and in love with her sexy man. It hurts to the core. I can't eat, sleep, or function at work. Lily cries every night. Thank God my sisters and mom have stepped up to take care of her while I work, and they watch her full-time on the weekends. I'm numb and don't know what I did so wrong. I took care of Tina, loved her when she was sick, and loved her children. The worst thing she said I did was work too much and that I didn't have time for her. Well, sorry, I'm the only one paying bills. It sucks so bad. The other worst part is, last night she had the cops beating on my door. When I opened up, it was her and the cops escorting her in to get her things. I'm so glad Lily was sleeping. Tina gathered up some more clothes and said to toss the rest as she'd never be back. I looked outside and Joe was sitting in the passenger seat. I am beyond livid. Oh yeah, and she texted me this morning asking for gas money and if I'd pay the car note. Maybe she'd talk to me face to face, but this is the only way. I didn't respond. I am numb. Yes, I worked a lot. I'm sorry I didn't have time to take you to the movies or a special dinner. But we have never been hungry one day, have a beautiful house, and I always gave you anything you asked for. Why not communicate so I could have worked on being a better husband and father? My wife is so beautiful. I thought I was lucky, but now I see the real her. Some important info on how they met. Tina was homeless when I met her, living in her car. My friend threw a party and she came with her friends. I did not know this woman, but when I woke up the next morning, she was in bed with me. I'm talking about laying under the covers, fully clothed, while holding on to me. We didn't have sex, and I was drunk. It's like she picked me and latched onto me from that day forward. So many red flags looking back. She had a beautiful, fun personality, and was really attractive. I was wrong. I am 39, Tina is 35, and Joe is around 23 or 24. Before she met Joe, Tina really did take care of our house. She's an amazing cook. She cooked every night and always took care of me. Once upon a time, before she met him, she really seemed like a good mother and a caring wife. But the last 2 months, she was withdrawn, and I thought it was because she was worried about something she wasn't speaking about, but it was because she was already yearning to be with Joe. He had her attention. I worked 10, sometimes 12-hour days, with a commute time of an hour each way, but I make good money to provide them with a house, food, clothes. They never had to ask me for anything. Sorry I couldn't go to a concert because I was too tired or to the movies. Maybe I should have tried harder, but why not just tell me so I could try to change instead of this? It's shocking and numbing. She did not ask once about Lily last night, didn't check in on her. She hasn't seen her in 3 weeks. This is a doting mother who always called our daughter my sweetie, my baby, always kissing her and hugging her. She was such a good mother, and it was all an act. She is ice cold now. It's like a switch went off and she doesn't care. How can I ever tell Lily about this chapter in our lives? It is blowing my mind. Thanks all for listening. I have no one to vent to at the moment. Feels really good. The 13-year-old twins, Mike and Sarah, are really good kids with some anger issues, but they have been dragged through a lot. They were finally stable with our lifestyle, and now Tina ups and does this. No, she doesn't do hard drugs. Not when we were together, but she was a heavy weed smoker. I don't smoke. And we would fight over this because she did it around Lily while on FaceTime with me at work. I went into a rage, so she stopped. For the last 6 months, she didn't touch weed, at least not while I was home. Other drugs? No, never ever, as long as I've known her. But who knows? I question everything now. From what I can see, she and Joe both love to smoke weed, which she does 24/7. I do not smoke and hated it. We would fight about this all the time. From the pics she's posting on Facebook, they both seem to be stoners. I think Tina might be mentally ill. I realize the signs now, looking back. I first met her at my friend Jack's house. She was there with her friends and we all got drunk. When I woke up the next morning, she was in bed with me. We didn't do anything, and from that day, she has been with me. It's like she attached herself to me and came on like a hurricane. She's physically beautiful, but cold-hearted. People warned me. Tina has never worked since I've known her. She said her dream was to be a stay-at-home wife, but even when she complained she was bored of it, I said she could get a part-time job, and she said no. She really doesn't like to work, if being honest. Yep, she'd always complain about being bored or just unfulfilled. I said she could get a part-time job, but she acted like that was beneath her. I have no clue what she really wanted. She would shut down and tell me to stay home more, but that was impossible with the lifestyle we were trying to give the kids. She is very high maintenance, so nothing was ever good enough. I don't understand her and probably never will. From what her sister Jane is telling me, they are living in different parks. Last night when she came with the cops, she was getting all the clothes she could carry. A week ago, they all were in a motel, I presume paid for by Joe because I closed the accounts, and said the debit card was stolen. She has no money. The story she gave me was her ex-husband beat her and abused her, so she was happy he abandoned her. I believed her. But now, not so much, as I've never met the man in the last 5 years. Yet his kids have been in my life. Yes, I guess I was a fool. I admit that I was a sucker for her beauty and her fake love for me. Tina has sisters and a mom. She's not close with her mom or her sisters, except Jane, so she might take her. But she's younger, kind of living her life in her 20s, just graduated college. The kids don't have their biological dad, just me. I don't know. I think they would go to foster care, being honest here. But I would take them in if I could. I just don't want the drama with Tina. If she can just leave me and the kids and go, then I'd be good so I can start to heal. This is too painful to deal with at times. Yes, the car is in my name. I pay for her phone bill as well. Thank you all. I'm scared to turn off her phone because Mike left his cell phone here in his room, and I believe Sarah has hers on her because she posted on Facebook a very sad message. Then she blocked me from looking at her page because I was leaving her messages. I think it was Tina who did it. I literally have no contact with them except today. She took me off block from her phone to text me and call. She completely iced me out. The kids started school a few weeks ago, but now I don't think they are going, because their backpacks are in their rooms. I looked, and all their clothes. She only came to get more clothes for herself. Yes, I am calling CPS to see what they have to say. Have to be honest. I was hesitating. I don't know why I'm so scared of her reaction. I saw Tina standing there looking even more messed up than before. She was in ragged clothes, her hair all tangled. "What do you want, Tina?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked at me with those cold eyes and said she needed money for gas and food. I handed her $1.50 and told her to get lost. She took the money without even saying thanks and walked back to the car where Joe was waiting, smirking at me like he had won some prize. Later that day, she texted me again, asking if I could pay the car note. I was done being her bank. "No way," I replied, feeling a strange sense of relief. It was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I knew I had to focus on Lily and the twins now, not on Tina's endless demands. I remember the days when Tina seemed like a good mom. She used to call Lily her sweetie and baby, always hugging her and kissing her. But now, she hadn't even asked about Lily in weeks. It was like a switch had flipped in her head, and she didn't care anymore. How do you go from being a loving mother to someone who abandons her kid without a second thought? I started questioning everything about our relationship. Had I been blind to the red flags all along? Maybe. But I wanted to believe in the person I thought Tina was. My friends warned me she was trouble, but I didn't listen. Love makes you stupid sometimes. As for the twins, Mike and Sarah, they were holding up better than I expected. They had been through a lot, and now they were finally starting to feel safe again. I tried to keep things as normal as possible for them. We had dinner together every night, and I'd help them with their homework. It felt good to have some stability, even if everything else was falling apart. I remember when I first met Tina. She was living in her car, homeless and desperate. My friend Jack had thrown a party, and she came along with some friends. I woke up the next morning to find her in my bed, fully clothed, just holding on to me. We didn't do anything, but from that moment on, she latched onto me like a lifeline. Looking back, I realize now she was just looking for a way out of her situation. I was her ticket to a better life, and once she found something better, she ditched me without a second thought. The last 2 months had been hell. Tina was withdrawn, always on her phone and sneaking out to see Joe. I worked long hours to provide for our family, but it was never enough for her. She complained about everything, the house, the bills, my job. Nothing I did made her happy. She wanted me to be home more, but she also wanted the lifestyle my job provided. It was a no-win situation. I talked to Jane, Tina's sister, about everything. She tried to be supportive, but there wasn't much she could do. Tina had burned a lot of bridges with her family. Jane told me they were living in different parks, sometimes crashing in a motel when Joe could scrounge up enough money. It was a pathetic existence, and I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction, knowing that Tina was getting a taste of the life she thought she wanted. The kids started school a few weeks ago, but I was pretty sure they hadn't been going. Their backpacks were still in their rooms, untouched. I decided to call CPS. It was a tough decision, but I had to do what was best for the kids. Tina had left me no choice. I was scared of her reaction, but I couldn't let that stop me. I met up with Tina at the gas station by the house when she was crying on the voicemail. I gave in. Sorry, I'm only human. I do love her, but I am done with her now. When I got to the gas station, I saw her standing there, looking even more messed up than before. She was in ragged clothes, her hair all tangled. "What do you want, Tina?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked at me with those cold eyes and said she needed money for gas and food. I handed her $1.50 and told her to get lost. She took the money without even saying thanks and walked back to the car where Joe was waiting, smirking at me like he had won some prize. I handed her $1.50 and told her to get lost. She took the money without even saying thanks and walked back to the car where Joe was waiting, smirking at me like he had won some prize. I felt my blood boil, but I knew better than to cause a scene. I had more important things to worry about, like taking care of Lily, Mike, and Sarah. That night I talked to Jane again. She said Tina had been begging her for money too, using the kids as leverage. "She told me you were starving them," Jane said, sounding disgusted. I knew it was a lie, but Chev DG Thakum's getting desperate. "She always knows how to play the victim," I muttered. "I'm done with her lies." The next day, Tina texted me, saying she wanted to see the kids. I agreed, but only because I didn't want the kids to feel like I was keeping them from their mom. When she showed up, she looked even worse than before. Her clothes were dirty, and she smelled like she hadn't showered in days. The kids were excited to see her, but I could tell they were also confused. "Why don't you come home, Mommy?" Lily asked, her big blue eyes filled with tears. Tina ignored her and turned to me instead. "You VJ Tim Dar a real piece of work, Jake," she spat, "making me live like this." "You're living like this because of your choices, Tina," I replied calmly. "You chose Joe. You chose to leave. Don VJ Tim T blame me for your mess." She rolled her eyes and said, "Whatever, just give me more money." I shook my head. "No more money, Tina. You need to figure this out on your own." She stormed off, dragging the kids with her. I felt a pang of guilt, but I knew I was doing the right thing. Tina needed to hit rock bottom before she could even think about getting better. Over the next few days, I focused on the kids. We spent time at the park, watched movies, and did homework together. It was tough balancing work and home life, but seeing their smiles made it all worth it. Mike and Sarah seemed to be adjusting well, but I could tell Lily was still struggling. She missed her mom, no matter how much of a mess Tina was. One evening, as I was tucking Lily into bed, she looked up at me with those innocent eyes and asked, "Daddy, does Mommy still love me?" It broke my heart. "Of course she does, sweetie," I said, forcing a smile. "She's just going through a hard time right now." Lily nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. I wished I could do more to shield her from the pain, but all I could do was be there for her and the twins. A few days later, I got a call from CPS. They wanted to meet with me to discuss the situation. I was nervous but relieved. Maybe this would be the turning point. I gathered all the information I had, text messages, photos, and even the posts Tina had made on Facebook. I wanted to make sure they understood just how unstable she was. When I met with the CPS worker, I laid everything out. "Tina's not fit to take care of the kids right now," I said, my voice trembling. "She's living in a car, using them to get money, and she's completely neglecting them." The worker nodded, taking notes. "We've DJ Tim all look into this, Mr. Harris. Thank you for bringing it to our attention." After the meeting, I felt a strange mix of relief and fear. I knew I had done the right thing, but I also knew it meant a long and painful battle ahead. Tina was NVJ TMTT going to give up easily, and I had to be prepared for anything. Tina showed up at the house demanding car payment money. She was more aggressive than ever, banging on the door and yelling at the top of her lungs. "Jake, you better open this door and give me the money, or IVJJ TMEM calling the cops again." I opened the door a crack and said, "Tina, IVDTMM, not paying for the car anymore. You need to figure this out." She pushed her way in and started grabbing the kids' things, throwing them into a bag. "IVJJTMEM, taking the kids," she declared. "You can't VJJTMT stop me." The kids were crying and I felt helpless. I called the cops, explaining the situation. When they arrived, Tina put on her best victim act, but this time, they were in VDAR-TMTT buying it. They told her she needed to leave, and she stormed out, screaming that IVDJ Timawd regret this. As she drove off, Joe was in the passenger seat, laughing like it was all a big joke. I knew then that this fight was far from over. After the cops left, I sat down with Lily, Mike, and Sarah. They were all shaken up, and I knew I had to be strong for them. "It's going to be okay," I assured them, though I wasn't entirely sure myself. "We'll get through this together." Over the next few days, I kept my focus on the kids. Tina tried calling and texting, but I ignored her. She was just trying to manipulate me into giving her what she wanted. One night, she even had the nerve to send Joe to my house to ask for money. I saw him on the Ring camera, and I didn't even bother answering the door. I watched as he kicked at the door and then finally left, swearing under his breath. The following week, I decided to take the kids to my mom's house for a little while. They needed a change of scenery, and I needed some help. My mom was more than happy to have us stay. She doted on the kids, cooking their favorite meals and taking them to the park. For the first time in weeks, I saw them truly smile. One afternoon, while the kids were playing in the backyard, my mom sat down with me. "Jake, you need to protect those kids," she said firmly. "Tina's not fit to be a mother right now." "I know, Mom," I replied, feeling the weight of her words. "I'm doing everything I can." "I know you are," she said, patting my hand. "But don't let her guilt you into anything. Those kids need stability, and right now, you're the only one who can give them that." Her words gave me strength. I decided to call my lawyer and push for full custody. It wasn't an easy decision, but I knew it was the right one. A few days later, Tina showed up at my mom's house. She was banging on the door, screaming for me to come out. My mom peeked through the window and shook her head. "She's a mess, Jake. Don VG Tummett let her in." I nodded and stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "What do you want, Tina?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "I need money, Jake," she said, her voice desperate. "We've J/Tim are living in the car, and the kids are suffering." "You did this to yourself," I replied. "I'm not giving you any more money. You need to get your life together." "Don't you dare talk to me like that," she snapped, her eyes blazing with anger. "You think you're so perfect, but you're the one who drove me away." "That's not true, Tina," I said, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. "You chose this. You chose Joe. You chose to leave. Fine, she yelled. But don't think I'm giving up. I'll get my kids back and there's nothing you can do about it. With that, she stormed off, leaving me standing there, feeling more determined than ever to protect the kids. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings and trying to maintain some sense of normalcy for the kids. I had to balance work, taking care of the kids, and dealing with Tina's constant harassment. She kept showing up at my house, demanding money, and threatening to take the kids. I documented everything, knowing it would help my case. One evening, while we were having dinner, Tina called again. This time I put her on speaker so the kids could hear. "Jake, I need you to give me money for the car payment," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "No, Tina," I replied firmly. "I'm not giving you anything." "You're going to regret this, Jake," she hissed. "I'll make sure of it." After I hung up, Mike looked at me with wide eyes. "Is Mommy really going to take us away, Dad?" he asked, his voice trembling. I shook my head. "No, buddy, Chev JTM's not. I'm going to make sure you stay right here with me." Tina's antics have only gotten worse. She showed up at my workplace, causing a scene, and embarrassing me in front of my colleagues. She screamed that I was a terrible father, and that I was keeping her kids from her. My boss had to call security to escort her out. It was humiliating, but I knew I had to keep my cool. That night I sat down with the kids and explained everything. "Your mom's not well right now," I said gently. "She needs help, but until she gets it, you've are going to stay with me." Lily, Mike, and Sarah nodded, their faces serious. "We understand, Dad," Sarah said. "We just want things to be normal again." "Me too, sweetheart," I replied, hugging them close. "Me too." The next day I got a call from my lawyer. "Good news, Jake," he said. "We have a strong case for full custody. With all the evidence you've provided, ITVJ or RTM's clear, TNEV DJTM's unfit." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It wasn't over yet, but at least there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Tina continues to spiral. She's been posting all over social media about how I'm a terrible person and how I'm keeping her kids from her. Her friends and even some family members have started messaging me, accusing me of being cruel. I ignore them all, knowing the truth will come out in court. The kids are doing better, though. They've settled into a routine and I can see them starting to heal. We have movie nights, game nights, and I even started teaching Mike and Sarah how to cook. It's been good for all of us, a little bit of normalcy in the chaos. One night, as I was tucking Lily into bed, she hugged me tight and said, "Daddy, I love you. Thank you for keeping us safe." Tears filled my eyes as I hugged her back. "I love you too, sweetheart. Always." No matter what happens, I know I'm doing the right thing. Tina can throw all the tantrums she wants, but she won't take my kids away from me. This fight is far from over, but IVJ ready. Things took a turn when Tina showed up again, this time with Joe in tow. They were both high, stumbling and slurring their words. I couldn't believe she had the nerve to bring him to my house again. "Jake, we need money," she said, leaning against the doorframe. "Joe lost his job, and we got nowhere to go." "That's not my problem, Tina," I replied, trying to keep my composure. "You need to leave before I call the cops." She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You think you can get rid of me that easily? These kids are mine, and I'm taking them back." "Over my dead body," I shot back, stepping outside and closing the door behind me to keep the kids from hearing the argument. "You are not fit to be a mother right now." Joe chimed in. "You heard her, man. Give us some money, or we've I'll make your life a living hell." I stared him down. "You already are. Now get off my property before I do something we'll both regret." They left, cursing and stumbling down the driveway. I watched them go, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. How had it come to this? The woman I once loved was now a stranger, lost in a haze of drugs and bad decisions. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Tina had become, and how I had to protect the kids from her. The next morning, I called my lawyer again. "We need to push harder for full custody," I told him. "Tina showed up high with Joe last night. I can't let her near the kids." He agreed, and we started gathering even more evidence to support my case. Photos, videos, text messages, anything that showed Tina's unfitness as a mother. It was a painful process, but I knew it was necessary. A week later, we had our court date. I was nervous, but ready. Tina showed up looking disheveled, her lawyer by her side. She glared at me as we entered the courtroom, but I kept my focus on the kids. The judge listened to both sides, reviewing the evidence carefully. My lawyer presented our case with precision, highlighting Tina's instability and neglect. Tina's lawyer tried to paint me as the villain, but the evidence was clear. After hours of testimony and deliberation, the judge made his decision. Based on the evidence presented, I find that Tina is currently unfit to care for the children, the judge said. Full custody is awarded to Jake. Tina will have supervised visitation until she can prove she's capable of providing a stable environment. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It was finally over. I glanced at Tina, who looked defeated and furious. She stood up and shouted, "This isn't over, Jake. I'll get my kids back." I ignored her, focusing on the kids. They were my priority now, and nothing was going to change that. After the court ruling, things began to settle down. Tina's visits were supervised, and she was forced to get her act together if she wanted to see the kids. It wasn't easy, but knowing they were safe made it all worth it. Months went by, and slowly, life started to return to normal. The kids were doing well in school, and we found a new rhythm as a family. I still had moments of doubt and anger, but I pushed through, knowing I was doing the right thing for them. One evening as we sat around the dinner table, Mike looked up at me and said, "Dad, thanks for everything. We know it hasn't been easy." I smiled, feeling a lump in my throat. "You're welcome, buddy. We'll always stick together no matter what." Lily, Mike, and Sarah nodded in agreement, their faces filled with hope and determination. We had been through a lot, but we had come out stronger on the other side. Tina has been trying to clean up her act. TM's been attending therapy and rehab, but TMM cautious. I want her to get better, but I can't let my guard down. The kids need stability, and I can't risk her falling back into old habits. I've started seeing someone new, a woman named Emily. TM's kind and patient, and the kids adore her. It's been a slow process, but she understands what we've been through and is willing to take things one step at a time. The future looks brighter now. We've had our share of battles, but we've come out stronger. The kids are happy and healthy, and TM finally starting to feel like myself again. Tina still has a long way to go, but I hope she finds her way. For now, TMDM focused on my family and the life we've rebuilding together. We've been through hell, but we've TMR stronger for it. This is our new beginning, and TMM determined to make the most of it.